Good morning, everybody, and welcome to News Views. I'm Judy Su. Career experts say the jobs our kids will have 20 or 30 years from now don't even exist today. Think about that. As technology is rapidly changing, so is the future job landscape. So how in the world do we prepare that next generation? A group of executives from the Chicago area says by letting our kids fail. The concept will be explored next week in a major conference in the western suburbs put on by DuPage Children's Museum. But to give us some insight right now this morning are three of the featured guests at the conference. Connie Lindsay, Executive Vice President at Northern Trust, Sanjay Shah, CEO and Chief Architect of Vistex, and also Jody Bondi Norgard, founder of GoGo Sports Girls. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so this conference is happening in about a week. I'm going to start with Connie right here. She's closest to me. But Connie, before Northern Trust, you were head of Girl Scouts USA. You worked a lot with the younger generation. What do we mean by letting the kids fail and that drives innovation?
And actually, it was a volunteer role, so I was in my leadership role at Northern Trust while at the same time being president of Girl Scouts of the USA. And so what it means for us as we think about what we're going to be talking about at the conference next week is how failure can fuel innovation. How are we able to observe children and work with young people to really think about failure as a way to look at a situation or a process differently? That I always say to the young people, failure isn't final and success has to be sustained. So we're going to talk about those concepts, how we are able to identify behaviors and build skills for young people and for children. Because when we think about it in the corporate context, we're always looking for talent. And that talent should be able to fuel innovation, which then drives products and services and capabilities, which also, quite frankly, drives profitability.
And you talk about innovation. Sanjay, I'm going to ask you, you're a leader in the tech space. So when you look ahead, what is the biggest challenge, you know, in your area, and how do you keep that spirit of innovation and creativity going?
Great, absolutely. So as we are all aware, the pace in tech is relentless, and the jobs of the future haven't even been conceived yet, right? That's how fast the tech space is moving. I think for us, what we try to inculcate is to encourage risk-taking and ambition. And with that comes the inevitable failures that come with it. But we are very receptive to it because, you know, if you want to fail fabulously and fail fast.
Fail fabulously, okay? Yeah.
And fail fast, okay. So that it's not the whys, it's what you learn from those failures. And it's especially relevant for us in the tech space.
Kind of scares me a little bit as a parent of 4 kids that the jobs that they're going to have in the future we don't even exist today. But then you were saying, you know, when you were young, could you have imagined the tech space as it is right now?
No, absolutely not. You know, just a couple of decades ago, navigation systems in vehicles were not even conceived yet. So I think, you know, technology is going to change a lot of things. And, you know, companies like ours are going to be at the forefront. So we have to kind of almost set the pace and the tenor and encourage the younger generation, the newer generation to learn. And I think that's the key.
I love what Connie said about, you know, the corporate culture, right? Embracing failure to drive innovation. However, do you really, I mean, do you see that corporations are really buying into that, even though we still constantly hear, you know, strive for, right, perfection? We still have to meet that bottom line.
Oh, strive for perfection? I think we got to get rid of that.
Get rid of it, okay.
Yeah, because nobody's perfect, right? And failure is so important in life, and fear is important in life. So the fear of failure, we have to embrace, because if you fail, you learn. And I mean, you have to weigh the risks, and Connie and I were talking about that before, but you know, everybody has failure, and you just can't be too hard on yourself. And when I started my business, basically 10 years ago, I made sure I never got too hard on myself when I failed, because I saw it as a learning curve. I never saw it as like, oh man, I didn't get down on myself. I just said, you know what, I just have to take another path. That didn't work, I'm just gonna take another path. So I think we need to adapt more of that, and the whole perfectionism thing, really, we need to stop. though.
I'm going to bring it back to Northern Trust. I mean, huge corporation. How do you build that into the culture for the employees?
So for Northern Trust, we talk about our culture of caring. We've been around since 1889. There are different ways that we incorporate support for our employees whom we call partners. It really is driving innovation. Sanjay talked about technology. We know that when we think about financial services and the way we deliver capabilities is vastly different over the past 10 to 15 years, how we leverage technology. And it takes a lot of effort to think differently about how our clients will use our services and capabilities. You now use your smartphone to look at bank balances or to conduct transactions. So that kind of innovation comes from looking at different ways to apply to a situation. How do we really serve the needs of our clients where they are and in a way that's most meaningful for them with all the appropriate security? It doesn't happen overnight. There's capital that you have to be willing to invest in those innovations. And when things don't work out, it's how do you, as you said, fail fast and move forward. If someone tries something that doesn't work, they don't have to be concerned about hearing about it forever. It's to say, we tried that, it didn't work. Now
failing fast.
Failing fast.
Okay, I'm going to have to keep that in mind. We're going to pause right here, take a quick break. I have another big question coming from a mother of four coming up right after this break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to News Views. I'm Judy Su. My guests here this morning are Connie Lindsay, Executive Vice President at Northern Trust, Sanjay Shah, CEO of Vistex, and Jody Bondi Norgard, founder of GoGo Sports Girls. And we are talking about this concept of preparing that next generation of employees by letting our kids fail today. And this conference is coming up in about a week. It is put on by DuPage Children's Museum. And I know, their mission is that when kids come into that space and try different things and fail at building, the little building or with the blocks, it's a good thing that they try to figure out other ways of doing it. But my question, though, coming back, as I said, I have 4 kids at home, different ages, from 7 to 15. What happens when the kids come home and say, well, you know what, I tried, but I failed. It's okay. I mean, how do you measure then success?
I'm child-free, but I have nieces and nephews that I support. When they come home and say that they failed, or when we have those conversations, what was the objective? What were you trying to achieve? And by what standard are you being judged? Now, there are absolutes in some cases where if you're taking a test and there are requirements. So I try to instill in them that sense first of responsibility, that we have the responsibility to understand what's being asked and required of us. Did you apply and prepare yourself for that situation? And if the outcome is not what you expected, how do you, once again, going back to resilience, how do you prepare yourself differently for the next opportunity? But that is a failure of a process, not a failure of you as a person. Is to continue to instill in them their own personal worth, that situation or circumstance didn't work out, but that's not a failure of you as a person. It's to become better prepared and better able for the next opportunity that might come.
I have three kids, so I understand like the whole failure thing, and every kid is different, right? Like how they internalize failure. But again, to Connie's point, it's, what is your next goal? Well, you failed, but you need to continue on. Can you, what have you learned from this? Because you have to learn from those failures. That's the most important thing. What have you learned from the failures? And I think that DuPage Children's Museum, in their atmosphere, allows this failure. It's set up to create success, yet failure. And then how do you create that success after the failure?
I work with a lot of young folks that work for us in R&D, especially. And I think what we try to imbibe is there is no stigma associated with failure, right? It's more about, because as soon as you dwell on the past, then folks start getting defensive. We talk about, all right, tell us what you want to do next and how do you want to do it. And we're not gonna, we are jointly accountable for the actions that happen. I think sometimes it's those subtle messages that are helpful as opposed to a dissection of what happened and what led to the failure.
Oftentimes we look at our kids and we'll go, oh my gosh, you have more of a scientific mind and you have more of a creative mind. Are they now one of the same, or have they always been?
Yeah, I think sometimes we compartmentalize too much. I think the world is converging now. I think education, disciplines, professions are converging, industries are converging. And I think we need to compartmentalize less. I think, you're creative and you're scientific. I mean, there needs to be creativity in science, and there needs to be science in creativity. And I think we
You're
have
all
to
nodding,
blend it
so
all
I
together.
think everybody agrees.
Jody and I were talking about that before we came on, and this whole notion of STEAM, we talk a lot about
Yes.
that in Girl Scouting: science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Oh, I love that. I
Both
agree
sides of
with
the
that.
brain. So we talk a lot about STEM, but STEAM is important. Music has mathematics in it. So when you learn to read music, you learn to count. You're using math. So to your point, Sanjay, it's all of that. And when we start to label people, Jody and I were having this great conversation about how as women, both of us we're tended to lean more towards technical aspects of our careers, finance, engineering, whatever that might be, and how people wanted to label us and what that would mean. So it's important for us to let young people know all of you is important.
So we opened the segment by saying that the jobs 20, 30 years from now don't even exist. So your best advice, your best, looking forward for the parents out there who are watching and the kids who are watching about how to prepare themselves.
All right, I'll start. Persistence. Persistence has the power to create change. And I think persistence comes with grit, it comes with fear, it comes with risk, but it also comes with creativity, it comes with joy, and ultimately reward. I know grit is a big word right now, but I think persistence and grit go hand in hand.
Sanjay?
I think I'll say learn to learn. And don't try to be a know-it-all, try to learn it all. And especially for, the kids and, the folks that are about to enter the workplace. So learn to learn.
Okay, and Connie?
Courage, conviction, and commitment. Understand who you are inside, have that level of self-awareness, the courage to pursue your dreams, the conviction to have people around you supporting that, and commitment to whatever it is you pursue.
I'm going to go back and repeat all that to all of my kids. Thank you all for coming here this
Thanks
morning.
for having us.
Wonderful conversation, something for all of us to think about. Okay, and that's your weekend homework. Okay, that does it for News Views. Thank you for joining us. For more information on the conference, you can go to our website at abc7chicago.com. We hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Now let's go back to the news desk.